Hey everyone, hope everybody had a good week. This is session 5 for the ENGT 102 Blueprint Reading class. Today we're going to talk about dimensioning. That'll be the primary focus, size and location dimensions. When we switch over here in a second to take a look at the outline for session 5, you'll notice that there's not a whole lot of text on it, mostly due because we're going to do 2 class exercises that actually get you guys engaged with putting into practice everything we've talked about up to this point, plus the information we're going to go over in this video with regard to size and location dimensions. Quickly, right before we dive into that, I wanted to just touch on the 2 or actually 3 main topics that we talked about in session 4. And I'm going to share some stuff here on the screen. Let's see, make sure that's working. That looks positively amazing. All right, so yeah, there's session 5. We're going to bounce really quick backwards. You don't have to grab your page from last week if you even still have it. You don't have to go onto Blackboard and call this up. Just look at the screen. Hopefully you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. I believe you are. It is the outline from session 4 when we talked about 1 view drawings, 2 view drawings, and then we ended with auxiliary views. But just really quickly, because once we leave these ideas of 1 view and 2 view, we're really going to start diving into multi-views and at least 3, probably 4, 5, up to 6. There was an individual in the class last week that even asked a question, can you ever use absolutely every view? I am going to be looking for an example of that. But the 1 view and 2 view drawings, they're interesting concepts. They have a purpose. But we're going to move on. We're going to be looking at a lot more than just 1 and 2 view drawings. So quickly to recap, 1 view drawings, Unit 9 in the text describes what these are used for, basically representing parts that are uniform in shape. And we talked a lot last week about using 1 view drawings for items that are cylindrical, items that are round. Everything in the item is a diameter of some size. Symmetrical items. When we saw the center line that was going through one of our items and the little tick marks that were on the ends of the center line, you can bounce back to units 8 and 9 to see those symmetry marks. Remember those. Those were telling us that everything on one side of the center line was exactly symmetrical or sized the same as everything on the other side of the center line. We used the symbols for DIA, which was the circle with the slash through it. That's a diameter symbol. You'll also see those coming up in the dimensions section that we're going to go over shortly. The R for radius, that was for arcs or rounded edges, not full diameters. Remember, radius is half of the diameter. It just goes from the center out to the edge of the arc. SQ for an item that would be square. And other such notes that you could put on the drawing that would indicate that 1 view would be all the information you would need to get proper description of the item. 2 view drawings were very similar, again used to represent symmetrical, flat, or cylindrical parts. But 2 views were required to fully define the object, and I think back last week we drew some things on the board where we could almost get away with 1 view, but there was 1 or 2 little things that weren't entirely clear. So 2 views would be required to do everything you need to fully define the item. And then we ended with auxiliary views. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of this session 4 outline and call up just a quick couple of examples of auxiliary views, because I feel like we blew through it pretty fast. And I want to make sure that you guys are understanding. I'm not going to spend too much time, just really quick recap. Hopefully this is large enough here. So we have a shape here, more or less a block with a boss in the top, some holes cut in it, a little kind of portion cut out here along the bottom. But we can see that surface B, if you're looking here at the front view, we've got an arrow and we're locating surface B here. We can see that it's at an angle, and when we project our view out to get our right view, it appears as if it's just a rectangle, but it's actually slanted back, like as if it's going into the screen. And so that gives us kind of a distorted view. We're not getting the actual size of that surface B. The same would be true for surface A. That's that boss that's kind of sticking up a little bit above surface B there. It's kind of an oval type shape. That's sticking up, and we're not getting a proper projection in our normal front view, side view, and top view. Those surfaces are distorted. So if we take a look here at what an auxiliary view does for us, and just really quickly, I'm going to hop back over. Okay, cool. We're still making sure that this video program is actually showing you what I think it's showing you and not something completely different. Okay, so down here in B, auxiliary view added to show true features of surfaces A and B. Now we've got a front view here. We can see that that view is at 90 degrees. A partial side view to just kind of give us the idea that yes, there's a notch cut out in the bottom. Partial top view, and this isn't always the way that it would be done. I think it's just kind of really focusing on the auxiliary view in this particular instance. You would have a full top view and a full side view. In this particular example, we're really just kind of trying to show you that when we project out an auxiliary view, this is what you're going to get. So in this case, we're looking down at this slanted surface here and projecting perpendicular off of it to get a fully projected view of surface A and surface B, so that its sizes can be shown at their true size. Locations of these holes that are in the boss here, we see there's our diameter symbol that we were excuse me, getting over a cold. A diameter symbol that we just talked about, the kind of O with a slash, and our radius symbol, those two are there. And now those are shown in their actual true form. They're not distorted as they would have been if we come back up here, and they almost kind of look like ellipses. We would not be able to get the true dimension between them, where they're located on surface A, or the true radius of the outer edge there of that boss that's sticking up. With the auxiliary view, we're able to show all those things in their true projections. So one example there. Just want to take another quick look at example 2, and then we're actually going to do an exercise where we're going to look at a drawing that has an auxiliary view and pull some information from it. And these examples are available on Blackboard. Let's see, under the folder Session 5 Session 5 folder called Auxiliary View Examples. So right now we're about to look at example 2. Slightly different piece here. I've got basically a little bracket. It's got a couple holes here on the top face, and then we can see here we've got 135-degree bend, which is going to give us a distorted view when we come over here all the way to the right. Here we have zone A. I don't think we have numbers on this particular one. We talked about zones a few sessions ago. Oh, there we go. There's your one up top there. Slightly smaller format. But in zone A1, we have what would typically be our right side view. It's there, but we can clearly see that that hole, that larger hole, is being shown as an ellipse. We can kind of see sort of the thickness of the part here, but it's also distorted. So there's just no way we'd be able to get an accurate representation of location and size for any of the features in this view. It's almost a view that's largely unnecessary. So we come back over and we know that this is 135 degrees bent. We project straight off perpendicular to it. And then as you can see here, we've got all these dimensions that are shown at the actual true size. Again, the diameter symbol, the O or the 0 with the line slash through it, our R for radius for those rounded edges. And we can locate it, which we'll be talking about here in a bit. Size and location dimensions, what they do and what they mean. If you guys have any questions about auxiliary views, please shoot me an email. I'd be glad to either point you in the direction of some additional examples, or even perhaps get on one of these Google Hangouts and kind of step through it with you if you feel that would be more helpful. I'm pretty much always available to do to do that sort of thing. So if you, yeah, that's something I probably should have brought up at some point. If you guys are having issues or troubles with any of these concepts that we're going over in the video lectures or even in class, if you want to take a little bit of time and kind of clarify, or if you've got an example of your own that you want to bring in and maybe talk through, I'm completely fine with jumping on a Google Hangout. They're very easy to do. You don't even have to have any sort of special account. If you send me a time that's good for you, a day and time, we can work that out. I'll send you a link. You click on it, and you bounce right into this video that we're doing right now. We can talk back and forth. We can share screens. We can go through examples. If you need the extra help, just shoot me an email and let me know. Speaking of emails, it's kind of come to my attention that leaving a comment in the YouTube video may not be as convenient or as easy as I expected it to be as far as getting attendance for watching the video lectures. So if you wouldn't mind, please just shoot me an email after you've viewed it so that I can mark you down as having attended the class, even though it's kind of virtual, you know, with the video. But please shoot me an email. That way I can give you credit for that and know that you've watched it and that you're up to speed with all of the topics that we're talking about. Okay, so we're going to dive into our first class exercise right now, and that's kind of why the session 5 outline is a little thin. Let's bounce back over here. There we are. And if we see here, we'll jump back up to homework at the end. We'll talk about that. In our class outline, we did a recap of auxiliary views and showed some examples up there. The special assignment for Miss class you can completely ignore. That was something from the spring. I think we probably got ice or snow that day and class got canceled, so we did a little makeup assignment on our own. Yes, I'm reusing my outlines from the spring because it's just easy and convenient, and yeah. In any case, yes, we've done our auxiliary view recap, and we're moving on to class exercise section. This is going to be on page 57. The assignment is Unit 10. In Unit 10, it's shaft support. It's drawing BP10. Actually, the drawing itself is on page 56. The question and answer page is on page 57. So, how are we going to do this? Well, there is our drawing, all right? So it's got some letters on there. It's got some dimension values. It has an auxiliary view because we've got a shape down here at the bottom in view 1 that is distorted because of the angle. So if you wouldn't mind, at this point, get to pages 56 and 57 in your book and work your way through these questions 1 through 20. In order to do that, it probably is wise for you to pause the video at this point, call the book up, and go ahead and do this exercise, and then come back when you're finished. I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to go right ahead into the answers, but if you choose not to pause and just get the answers, that is completely on you, but I guarantee you will not get as much out of this as if you just pause the video right now, do the class exercise, and then come right back and follow us through the answers. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to keep talking. Pause, please. Don't just get the answers. Excellent. All right. So I'm going to have the actual drawing up on the screen during the answers portion of this, just so that it can be well, easier for me, to be honest, but it's probably going to help you out too, to be able to see the lettered bubbles and such on here so that you can follow along with the answers. All right, so number 1, name the material specified for the part. Again, material is going to be found in our title block or in a note. With this particular drawing and with many of the examples and exercises in the book, the formats are far more substantive, far less substantive, far less of a big deal. They don't focus too much on them. We've seen some examples with a full title block, full notes, things like that. This is very simplified down here in the lower right-hand corner. Just gives us a handful of information about our item. So first question, name the material specified for the part. Write down in title block material, malleable cast iron. Number 2, how many pieces are required? Same little section down here, number required, 20. Number 3, what is the order number? Right below the number required, order number 71-24. Now, just as a side note, not to confuse you too much, but this is just kind of the way the real world works. We don't typically put the number required or the order number in the title block of our drawing. That's typically a separate document because this particular part may only need 20 this time, but it may need 100 next time. It may need 1,000 the time after that. And it's not something you want to go back and update and revision your drawing just because you're making a different quantity of these. The purpose of having the number required and the order number in the title block for this example is just so that you guys can go in, take a look at the title block, pull the information that you need off of it, just giving you guys some experience looking at a drawing and pulling information. But the side note, real world type stuff, the amount required for production is typically not listed on the drawing, but do with that information what you will. Okay, so we are on to question number 4, and it's asking us to name each of the following views. So view 1, down here in the lower left-hand corner, that would be what I would call our front view. Remember, our front view is the main attraction on our drawing. It is up to us what we feel is the most substantive view that we could present as the main view. So view 1 is our front view. View 2 is right above it here, and it is projected upward, which we know is going to be a top view when we're flipping our part up, giving us a top view. And then we have, let's see, view number 3 over here to the side, and we just got finished talking about auxiliary views. This would be an auxiliary view that's showing us the perpendicular look at this angled piece right here. In this particular case, they haven't projected it right off of it. Actually, let's see. Yes, they have. It's been a while since I've looked at this drawing. We're actually projecting off of the top view to get it. So we're looking here at the leg of the shaft support, and we're projecting it out this way perpendicular so that we can see the holes. I apologize. I thought it might have been coming from down here, but that's what 5 months of not looking at a drawing will do to you. Okay, so view 3 is an auxiliary view. It is showing us the true shape and size and location of a feature on our part that would be skewed if we were to pull it off to the side there. All right, so number 5, what kind of line is C? Line C is down in our front view here. It's this dashed line, and we call dashed lines in our drawings hidden lines. And in this particular case, line C, that dashed line there, if you follow it up, is actually representing this corner right back here. And hopefully you can see me moving my mouse around. It's the corner that the half-inch dimension and the 30-degree angle dimension are pointing to. So that hidden line is representing that back edge right there that you can't see in this particular view. So line C is a hidden line. What kind of line is line P? Right next to line C, it's that nice dark thick bold line. That's our object line. Give the diameter of line, give the diameter of hole F, and I apologize that my phone is ringing. Please ignore that. Give the diameter of hole F, and that's, let's see, notes, that's number 7. Hole F is up here in our top view. And if we look at it, don't see a diameter. I see F pointing to the hole, but I do not see a diameter. So let's come down to view 1, our front view here, and we can see some dashed lines here, and those are actually representing this hole here. And if you remember, I think it was the last session, I said it's not good practice to dimension to dashed lines or hidden lines. That's true. Take that with you if you're going to start doing CAD classes. Don't dimension to hidden lines. In this particular case, again, we're using it as an example so that you can say, I don't see a dimension up here for F. Let me take a look around in other views. This 5/8 dimension here is giving us the diameter for F. Hopefully that makes sense, but please, once again, reinforcing it. Sorry to sound like a broken record. 5/8 of an inch should not be down here in the view where the lines are hidden. It should and would be up here in place of bubble F. All right, moving along. Determine dimension A. Where is dimension A? All right. Okay, so dimension A is coming from this lower object line up to this hole, which is skewed in this view. So we're not going to get it here. And when we're looking at views that are kind of funky and not true, we always want to go over to our auxiliary view if one is provided. So we know we're coming from the bottom edge of our part up to the hole. So if we come over to here and we look, okay, so here's our bottom edge of the part running along here. And here's a dimension that's coming from the bottom edge up to the hole. So 3/16 of an inch would be the value for bubble A. Right next to it, determine dimension B. Let's see, it's not here in this view. So let's take a look at our auxiliary view. And we've got from the bottom to the top, which is what B is showing. And we've got 1 1/4 inches. That would be for number 9. Number 10, what surface in the front view is the same as surface D in the auxiliary view? And so we're coming down here to our front view. So which surface in the front view is the same as surface D in the auxiliary view? So here's our auxiliary view. And here's surface D. We've got the D in the bubble here, and it's pointing. It doesn't have a leader on it. It's got a dot, which means we're pointing to an actual surface, not a line. I haven't really talked about that too much, but let's go ahead and do it right now. Whenever you've got a leader that ends in a filled-in circle, like we see here, that is representing whatever surface it's touching. If we come right down below it, we'll see bubble S. It's got a leader, and it's got an arrowhead on it, which is touching this nice dark bold object line here. That's referring to that line. The D with the leader that's got the filled in circle on the end, it's touching it. That is referring to a surface. Those are the differences between an arrow and a filled in circle. So if we're getting back to our question here, what surface in the front view is the same as surface D in the auxiliary view? If we come down to the front, this is the surface that we're looking at. Hopefully you can see that mouse moving around. Well, we've got a surface here, closed in circle arrow. That would be H. So the answer for number 10, the surface in the front view that's representative of D in the auxiliary view is surface H. Number 11, how many diameter 0.375 holes must be made in the support? Well, we already know from a previous answer that this hole here is 5/8, so we're not looking at that. Come over to our auxiliary view and we see diameter 0.375, 2 holes. So it's telling us right there in the dimension in the note for number 11, 2 0.375 diameter holes are to be drilled into this part. Number 12, what is the center to center distance of the 375 holes? All right, so we see the 375 holes here. We can come right off of that. We can use our extension line to come straight up here, 1 1/4 down to this hole here. So from the center of one to the center of the other, this value here, 1 1/4. That's the distance between those 2 holes. 13, what surface in the top view is represented by the line E in the auxiliary view? So come up to our top view. All right, got our top view here. Coming over to here, E. So what surface in the top view is represented by the line E in the auxiliary view? Now in the auxiliary view, line E is a hidden line. All right, cutting right through there. If we project back over to our top view, the hidden line is representing surface N. We can see this guy here. Might be a little easier to visualize if we actually come down to the front view. Now you see E in the auxiliary is that dashed line. It's also what we've got coming straight across here. You see we've got a hidden line coming straight across here as well. That's because we can't see this surface here with this leg on the end here blocking it. So that surface there is what we see when we project up to the top, which is surface N, which is what this hidden line here in our auxiliary view, line E, is representing, surface N. Again, if this is confusing, please give me an email, shoot me an email, let me know. We can step through it at your pace. Number 14, what surface in the top view is represented by line G in the front view? All right, so we're coming down to our front view here. We're finding line G right here in the upper left-hand corner here on top of this kind of boss that's sticking up off of our part. Come up to our top view, and we see the very top surface here is surface M. So line G in the front view, we project up, representing surface M in the top view. What line in the top view represents surface H in the front view? Now we're moving on to 15 here. So what line in the top represents surface H in the front? So we'll come down, we'll find surface H. All right, here we go. Surface H is this whole surface right here, the one that's at the angle. So that's surface H in the front view. We're going to project up to the top because that's what it's asking, what line. Well, that surface is this angled surface right here, and the line representing that would be right here with this arrow coming off, so line L. So what was that? Number 15. Line in the top view, L, representing surface H. 16. What line in the front view represents surface J in the top view? All right, so surface J in the top view is this guy right here, all along here, this top surface. If we come down to the front view, that top surface would be right along here. So what line represents that in the front view? Well, that would be this guy here, line P. Line P is representing surface J. All right, that was 16. 17, what do K lines and R represent? Let's see, 17, K and R. What do lines K and R represent? All right, so K and R are found down here in the front view, and we actually talked about this a little earlier in this example about how much of a not good practice it is to dimension to hidden lines. So that kind of gives away the answer. K and R are the hidden lines that represent the 5/8 inch hole that we see up here in the top view. That if we come over here to this nice pretty shaded isometric view, we can see the hole that's going through this cylindrical piece that's on the end of the shaft support. So K and R are representative hidden lines that represent that hole. Number 18, what line in the front view represents surface N in the top view? Up here, we've already kind of talked about surface N. That's that flat piece right along here. The isometric kind of gives us a little bit of a different view. We can see that that's the surface that's right in here where the mouse is moving. So if we want to know what line represents that down in this front view, that's that surface that runs right along there. And that would end up being line Q. All right, number 19, almost wrapping this up, guys. Number 19, determine the vertical distance between the surface represented by the line P, which we have here in our front view, line P, and the surface represented by line Q, which is this surface here. So we've got P at the top and Q down here, and it's asking us the vertical distance between those two. Now, how would we determine that? Well, we could do some subtraction, right? Because oftentimes we will not know, or we will not be given in number value, in a dimension value, every single location or size dimension on a part. Oftentimes, whatever dimension we're looking for, whatever value we're looking for, will be the difference between two dimensions that are provided. So for starters, we know that the overall height from the bottom of our part up to surface P, we did this a little earlier, was represented by this B here, which if we come over to our auxiliary view, we find is 1 1/4 inches. So we know the total height of the part, 1 1/4 inches. Now, what else do we know? Well, we can do the same thing to get up to the second surface, Q. We can come from the very bottom of the edge, and we're in the front view here where the mouse is moving around. We can come from the very bottom edge up to that surface, which is 3/8. Now, we don't have a dimension shown from that top P down to Q, but we know the overall heights of each one of those values. So it's just as simple as doing some subtraction. We take 1 1/4 inch, which is the overall, to get up to P. We take 3/8 of an inch, which is to get up to surface Q. We subtract 3/8 from 1 1/4, and we are left with 7/8. So the distance from the top here, P, down to the surface Q, is the difference of 1 1/4. We're subtracting 1 1/4 minus 3/8, giving us 7/8 or 0.875, depending, because you can either use decimals or fractions, 7/8 or 0.875. Last but not least, question number 20. What is the distance between the face represented by line E? Let's find line E. All right, the face. So E was that surface here, N, represented by line E, and the surface represented by line S. Okay, so it wants to know the distance between E and S. Now, we don't have a dimension here, which is good because we're not supposed to dimension to hidden lines. Sorry, had to say it again. But we want to know what the distance is between E and S. And that's actually a really interesting question for the book to give you, since you just had to use that exact value to determine the answer to question number 19. So really what we're doing is we're coming down to the bottom, our front view here. We see that S is at the very bottom, and it wants to go up to E, which is the surface that we just got done looking at. And right there on the left-hand corner, we see 3/8. So distance between S and E, for the answer to 20, 3/8 of an inch. All right. So we are going to now move on. Again, if there's questions on that, any clarifications needed, please let me know. Be happy to help you guys out. But we're going to flip over now to page 58 in the text. We're going to go to Unit 11 and talk about size and location dimensions. Now, we've already sort of been talking about this because we've gone over quite a few examples in class and just one right there, where we're kind of pulling some information off of our drawings and finding out some sizes and locations of things. So we're kind of already diving into it, but we're going to get a little more detailed here. Okay, so if we look down here under standards for dimensioning, gives us some good information. All drawings should be dimensioned completely so that a minimum of computation is necessary. That being said, what we just got done doing in that exercise was computation. And again, reiterating the fact that a lot of the exercises in the book are very much geared towards having you guys figure out how to read these things. Go to one dimension, go to the other, find the difference. It's true that you would want to use as least computation as possible, and we'll get into that as we move a little bit further into this and get a little more in depth. But that's what you want to do. You want to make the drawing simple enough to where you don't have to do a whole lot of addition and subtraction to get all the information that you need. It goes on to say, however, there should not be duplicate or duplication of dimensions unless such dimensions make the drawing clearer and easier to read. And when that says clearer and easier to read, it doesn't mean you can just throw as many dimensions on there as you need to and duplicate them over and over and over again. You're allowed to do that, but when you do that, you put parentheses around the dimensions. And we will talk about that a little bit more in some upcoming sessions. But you do not want to list a dimension more than once on a drawing. If you do, you have to put parentheses around it. We'll see some examples coming up, but just keep that in mind. If we scroll down, or I'm scrolling down, you can flip the page to number 59. Construction dimensions. Dimensions used in building a part are sometimes called construction dimensions. These dimensions serve two purposes. One, they indicate size, and in the figure 11-1, we can see everything there that has an S would be indicating a size of a feature or a size of the part. 2, they give exact locations, L, so location examples. So in our example here, we've got a block and we want to drill a hole through it. We've got to know how big the block is, and we've got to know how big the hole is, and we've got to know where the hole is. So we have size dimensions and location dimensions. So we're going to take a look really quickly at size dimensions. 2-place decimal dimensions, I don't know why they threw that in there. They talk about widely using 2-place decimals. Yeah, sure. But to be honest with you, it's really what your part requires, the level of tolerance it requires, which again, we talked a little bit about tolerance, how it's not always going to be completely dead nut solid every time you cut a part. It's going to be a little bigger or a little smaller. It really depends on what you can live with for your part to function correctly. Don't worry too much about the 2-place decimal little paragraph there. Not exactly and it even says here 3- and 4-place decimal dimensions continue to be used for more precise dimensions. Exactly. Depends on what your part needs. But let's jump down here to size dimensions. So every solid has at least 3 size dimensions: depth or thickness, length or width, and the height. If we come down and take a look at figure 11-2, we can see here this 3 inches is representing the overall length of our part. We'll call that the length. Let's see, the 1.25 dimension here we'll call the overall height of our part. So that's two size dimensions. And then we're going to come out here and take a side view off of this. And here's the 3rd size dimension, would be the depth of our part at 1.12. So these are size dimensions. And there's not just 2 or just 3, but a minimum of 3 on a part like this, on a typical prism or a typical square, rectangular type part. Again, if we're talking about cylindrical parts, we're probably just using 1 view. You may only have 1 dimension. It might just be the dimension of a pipe. So you may only have one. Let's see, that would require 2 sizes. It would be the diameter and then the length. In this particular case, we're looking at a prism, so we're looking at a minimum of 3. But then we've got others. We've got sizes for these notches. We've got sizes for this large notch here on the end. It's going to be 1 inch tall, and it's going to be 1.62 long. We're just going to notch that whole piece right out of the part. So there's a couple of different ways you can use size dimensions. Absolutely for length, height, and depth. But then if you're going to make some cuts, we're going to use size dimensions for those as well. Location dimensions, if we're moving along here to page 60. We've got an example. Let's see. And I've got a note here in my book. If we read the 2nd paragraph on page 60, it says, draftspersons and designers must know all the manufacturing processes and operations that a part must undergo in the shop. Not true. Not true at all. If I could find the guy that wrote this book, I would make him explain himself for putting such a silly statement in there. Don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this, but no, you are, as a draftsperson, if that's what you're going to go do, if you're a designer, if that's what you're going to go do, you do not need to know all the manufacturing processes. And when I say manufacturing processes, I mean how the person that's going to take your drawing is going to end up with the part that you want. They can make that part however they want. They can drill it out on a drill press. They can put it in an automated machine that drills the holes by a computer program. The actual process they use to get your part, largely irrelevant unless a specific precision is needed where only a certain machine can get it to you. But you, as the person designing and drafting, you might want to consult with the person that you're going to use to build it, just so that you're not designing some crazy thing that no one could ever possibly manufacture, just way too much complexity. But you don't really need to know, and you're not really required to know how they're going to make it, as long as at the end it meets what your drawing asks them to do. The sizes are correct, the locations are correct, the material is correct, things of that nature. It meets the tolerances that you've set out. That's what's the most important, not that you are familiar with every piece of machinery that a shop might have. With that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at some size and location dimensions, figure 11-3. Now everything with an S is going to be a size. Everything with an L is going to be a location. So starting in the upper left here of our, whatever we want to call this thing, we'll call it a bracket because that's a simple, easy, common term. We've got an L dimension. It's coming off from the side of our part out to the center of the hole. That's a location. It's locating this first hole out from the edge of the part. It's giving our horizontal or X direction here. Now we notice that this hole is attached, so to speak, to this hole with one of our center lines. And we talked about this probably 2 sessions ago, maybe longer, that you can use center lines to indicate that things, probably not a really good term, features such as a hole are connected or aligned with each other. So when we see this dimension coming out here from the edge to this first hole, we've got an L telling us that's a location of this hole, but then that hole is connected all the way down here to this guy. This location dimension, whatever that value is, let's just say it's an inch, would apply not only to the top hole here, but it's connected with our center line. It also applies to this bottom hole here. So that first location dimension, you only need one. Off to the side to here, connected with the center line, the value applies to both. Then we're going from the center of that hole over to the other side. That's another location dimension. And what we're saying is the location of this second hole here is contingent on this first hole here. Now the first hole we came off the edge. If it was important that this hole here be located off the right edge, we could have done it that way. But this particular drawing is set up to let us know that this second hole here, its position is based on this first hole here. So we are locating it with a locating dimension off the center line of that hole over to here. And again, we see connecting with the center line is this hole here. So both of these are located off of this hole here in the horizontal or X direction. So you're only going to see location dimensions once up here. With the use of the center lines, you only need them once. You won't see them again down here because they're already covered using the center lines to align the locations. Now down here, we're coming off the bottom edge here. Same exact deal. Coming up, location dimension of the first hole. We're connecting it with a center line. Then we're going off the center of that hole to come up to the next one. Again, center line. So those holes are fully located on that base, just using 4 dimensions. We've located all 4 holes. Size of the holes are indicated here with this S dimension. Now, typically, if you want to use one dimension to hit all 4 holes, letting us know that they're all 4 the same size, you would put a 4x in front of your value, meaning that dimension value applies to all 4 holes. Or right underneath of the value, you could just simply type 4 holes. And that would let the person know who's reading the drawing, which is you in this particular case. You're reading it and you're going to know that the size for all 4 holes is the same, whatever that value happens to be. Over here, we're going to skip the sizes. I think we kind of understand what size dimensions mean at this point. If not, we're going to do an exercise here in a bit. But we've got this kind of crazy arm that's kind of hanging out here with a hole in it. And we got to locate that hole. So here we can see a vertical L dimension that's coming off the top of our base, and it's coming down to the center of this hole. We're locating it vertically in the Y direction. We've also got to locate it horizontally in the X. So we're coming off the bottom of the base. Here's another L dimension. It's in blue and coming out to the center. So now we've fully located that hole using 2 location dimensions. And again, here's an S dimension pointing directly to the hole, letting us know what size that hole is. Again, it would have DIA for diameter, or that symbol that's a hole or a 0 with a slash through it, letting us know what the diameter of the hole is. Yeah, so there's some examples for locations. Let's see, we roll along in the book here, placing dimensions. Now this was an important thing back when we drew by hand, but now that we draw with computers, on the whole we draw with computers, this is a largely irrelevant topic. It says in dimensioning a drawing, the first step is to place extension lines and external center lines where needed. In other words, it's telling you to come down here and figure, what's this, 11-4, and before you start putting values in there, go ahead and draw in your blue extension lines. Well, that doesn't work that way anymore. In a CAD program, you select the type of dimension that you want to put in, whether it's linear, meaning you're going horizontal or vertical, or if it's a diameter, or if it's a radius. You select that type of dimension in your CAD program, you click on your feature, done. Puts the extension lines in. For you guys taking CAD classes, this is old news. It's nothing new to you. So you don't have to worry about putting in extension lines first. The CAD program is pretty fancy with that stuff. Goes on and talks about continuous dimensions, kind of stacking and so forth, letting you know that how to place dimensions and things. See over here in 11, let's see, figure 11.6. In mechanical drawings, we usually don't have the number values of our dimensions turned or rotated so that they're following. It's usually so that you look at it, it's all horizontal, like you see these blue guys here. So 1 3/4, you can just read that plainly by looking at it. You don't have to tilt your head. So the 9/16 over here on the side, the 1 1/8. Most of what we're going to see in this class, most of what you will see if you continue on in a mechanical engineering type field, those dimensions will just all be in the same orientation. They won't be rotated. Let's see, they've got a couple of things. This is more of a drafting type thing, not blueprint reading, but while we're here, we might as well go ahead and just discuss it. What you should expect to see when you're looking at a drawing is something more like figure A, well, figure 11-7, A, says preferred method, continuous dimensions. Not recommended would be B, where you've got them staggered all over, and continuous just basically is like a chain. You can see how the 0.75 comes off the edge over to the notch. The arrows are aligned to say, all right, the next dimension over is 0.62. It's going out to this value. And then what we see here is a gap, no dimension value applied. But in a line here, 7.5, 6.2, and 7.5, off this edge over to here, which is indicating that this space in here, if it's not the exact dimension that we want it to be, that's okay. We're putting the dimensions on the features that are most important. So this feature here, if I'm reading this drawing, I'm not as concerned about it. We can get it. Remember, we can take 2.50 and subtract all these values and get that dimension, but it's not one of the more critical ones. If you don't see a value on it, it's typically one that we're not going to hold to quite as tight of a tolerance, and it can be a little more sloppy. But when you look around here, or when you look straight across here, you can see all these values. They're nice and aligned, very neat, very organized. If we look at B, they're kind of all over the place, a little more difficult to read. So when you're reading drawings, when you're preparing them, if that's the field you choose to go down or the route you choose to go down, lining them when possible is the preferred method. Dimensioning in limited spaces, again, we can use arrows with leader lines to kind of just tell us what these dimensions are. If you look at figure 11.8D, it tells us that the groove is 1/8 of an inch wide and it's 3/16 deep, and that would prevent you from having to put a lot of extension lines here, and it would, to get a little messy if you've got such a tight small area to work in. So it is not uncommon to see a leader with just a note here giving you those values without seeing actual dimensions like you're seeing either in C or A or B, or gosh, even E here, which is getting kind of hairy. So simple is best. All right, so we are now moving along to our second class exercise, which I have it would be kind of terrible if we had to look at it like this. So I've got a better view of it for you guys. BP 11. All right. This is on page 62, and it's doing size and location dimensions. It's a fairly simple one, and what I want you to do is look at page 63, and it's asking you question number 1 or exercise number 1. It says give the dimensions in both views in the circles provided. So there's a whole lot of empty circles. Let me throw this on the screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay, so page 62 looks like, or 63, excuse me, looks like this. A lot of empty bubbles on there. So we want to fill in those dimensions from the drawing. It's only giving us an isometric view, so it's a little tricky, but that's kind of getting you to look a little closer and kind of understand what exactly it is that you're looking at. So look at drawing VP11, the die shoe on page 62. And fill in the missing dimensions that are all of these open blue circles. And number 2, just talking about the different line types, extension, dimension, etc. Go ahead and list those out. And then in number 3, it's asking us to place an X in the correct block to identify the kind of dimension to which each letter refers. So it's just 3, G, H, and I, and it wants to know if it's a size dimension or a location dimension, just as a quick exercise to understand whether you're kind of getting the difference between the two, understanding what size and locations are. So go ahead and do that. Again, here's the part where you want to pause the video, get your book, or go online. These two sheets are under the Session 5 Blackboard, so if you don't have a book or you'd rather not write in the book, you'd rather just write on a piece of paper, you can call these up as PDFs under the Session 5 lecture material and work on them that way. But please pause it. Don't just wait for the answers and fill the answers in, because that will not be overly helpful to you. And we're not going to, I want you guys to fill in every missing bubble. I would appreciate you taking the time to do that. If you hit any issues where you're like, I just have no clue what this dimension value is, email me, give me a shout. We can walk through it. I will help you out. When we come back, when you unpause and we go through the answers, I'm not going to do every single one. I'm going to pick a handful. I'm going to pick a handful and go that route, just so that time-wise we hopefully get this video lecture in at right about an hour, because that's how long your class is. I don't want to have you guys go way longer than what you should. So go ahead, pause it, take some time, and then come right back. I'm not going to pause, like I said. Going to keep on moving along. Pause, come back. All right. Number 1, give the dimensions in both views in the circles provided. So like I said, I'm just going to pick a handful of them here and go through them. Hopefully you've gone through and gotten all of them down by now. So let's start off in our top view here, and over on the right-hand side, we're going to do all 3 of the bubbles that are here on the right-hand side. So we're going to come from the top edge down to the center line of this guy here. And we're going to do from the top edge down to this particular edge here, which isn't the overall depth, because they got a little bump out here. And then again, from that edge all the way out to the end. So these 3 dimensions here, boom, boom, and boom. Now this first one here, the answer to that one would be 1.75. And if we scroll back up to our isometric view, we've got a whole bunch of dimensions here going all over the place, but if we look down here, we can see that there's an extension line coming out from the back edge, 1.75 to a center line. Now that center line is indicating the center of this slot here. So we know the 1.75 is going to a center. So that first bubble there, 1.75. The second bubble that we were looking at, again, right in the same area, going off that back edge, all the way down to this front surface here, not the bump out, not that guy there, but just down to the front surface, and that's 3.5 inches. We can see that right here on the side. And then lastly, that bubble there that's taking that small amount of space from this surface here out to our little bump out here is 0.12, and that's that dimension right down there on the corner. Jumping around here a little bit, let's go down to the front view, and we'll look across the top here. We've got a fairly long dimension across the top here, and then we've got the one right next to it that's connected or chained, continuous, like we just talked about continuous dimensions. So let's take a look at those two. We're going to bounce back up to the screen above it. And we see that first one is actually right up top here. So from one edge of that top surface over to the other edge, we have 4 inches. So that first balloon should have been 4 inches. Then again, from the surface here out to the outer surface, that was that second balloon. That would be the 1.62 that we see right here. So hopefully that was fairly clear from looking at the view, from our isometric view here. And let's just grab a few more. Let's see, let's come over here. We'll go back up to the top view and we'll look at this slot. We've got 2 dimensions here. It looks like dimensioning, well, from this view, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what it is, but it's from this outer edge of the slot to the outer edge of the slot. And then this little guy in here looks like the actual distance that the cut is, the actual dimension of the cut, the size of the cut. So let's scroll back up here or flip your page over. All right, so now that particular piece is hidden over here behind, and there really aren't any dimensions over there. So it's a little difficult to see what's going on there. So let's come back over here. Now, if the book was consistent, which admittedly it has some issues with, we'd see some symmetry. We'd see some symmetry marks. And maybe we do down here. And let's come back. No, they failed. They failed to do it. But we would see those center lines that would kind of cut across our part to let us know that everything on one side, meaning everything over here on the right side here, is the same as everything on the left side here, so that we can, you know, when we come up here and we look and we say, oh, there's only dimensions here, hopefully they apply to the stuff that we can't see. Those center lines with the symmetry ticks would have been very helpful for the book, would have been consistent since we've already talked about that topic and gone through what it means. In any case, we're going to go ahead and play along with the book and get those dimensions. Okay, so we know that the ones that are down here that we looked at first are talking about things on the bottom here. So we see some dimensions here. And that outer one, the very one that comes from the very far edge of this little boss that sticks up all the way out to the other one, if we come out here on the outside, we can see that that's 1.25, 1¼ inches was the larger of the missing dimension bubbles. And then the actual size of the cut of the slot, an actual size dimension here, is going to be this 0.62. I know it's a little tough to see on the screen, but hopefully you can follow along in your book or call this image up and zoom in from the actual session 5 lecture. So 1.25 for the outer bubble, 0.62 for the inner bubble, and once again, those were the dimensions that were over here on the left side of the part that we couldn't actually see in the ISO view. They were dimensioned on this side in the ISO view. All right, real quick, let's identify some extension lines. Let's see, the only one that I have written down here would have been line C. Down in our front view, we can see this line here. It's a little bit lighter. It extends away from our part, comes up and meets a dimension line. Line C is an extension line. Talking about dimension lines, D, perfect example. Dimension lines ends off with the arrowheads here. H, I, and G are also dimension lines. Here's G here in our top view. Let's see, H here up on the right-hand side of our top view, and I as well. Those are all examples of dimension lines. Object lines, hopefully you guys understand what those are. Those are those nice thick dark lines that represent the edges of the actual part that we are demonstrating in our drawing. Center lines, again, I think we've kind of exhausted those. B here, B is a center line. E, also a center line down here, representing the center of this slot that's cut through down this way. And this hidden line here is representing the back edge of that slot that you're not able to see because it's hidden by the material. And that takes care of, takes care of all that. So number 3, place an X in the correct block to identify the kind of dimension which each letter refers. G would be the first one. That's this long guy here that comes all the way across the part. Hopefully you guys understood that as being a size dimension. It isn't locating anything. It's giving you the overall length of our part. H in the top view over here on the right-hand side, what's that doing? It's coming from the edge down to the center of this slot. So what's that doing? It is locating the center of the slot off the edge. So dimension H would in fact be a location dimension. And then lastly, I, right next to H, it's going from this outer edge here, this outer object line, all the way down to, let's see, this object line here, not locating any kind of feature. So therefore, dimension I would be a size dimension. If you have questions about that, please contact me. Again, I hope you guys filled in all of those bubbles. We can go over this in class if you feel the need to, or please email me, let me know, say, hey, I couldn't figure this one out. Help me out. What is it? And we can go through that. Okay, so that wraps up the class exercise. And really quick, before I come back on screen here, session 5 lecture material. You'll see the homework assignment is there. It's from the textbook, page 43, assignment A, unit 8 N shaft, VP 8A. If you guys could please complete that and email me the answers, I would greatly appreciate it. And your grade will greatly appreciate it because homework assignments are a huge part of it. And speaking of which, if you haven't sent in the homework for session 4, please do that as well. Very important that we get those in. Let's see, I'm going to stop sharing the screen there and come back to you guys really quickly. Second time I've ever done one of these videos. The last one was the first time. So I'm really hoping that you're getting the information that you need out of it. I know when we get in class, sometimes I can get sidetracked and start drawing on the board, and we can kind of dive off into other things. This is more straight, kind of just getting you guys the information, doing some assignments. I'm hoping that you're pausing it while you're doing it, and really trying to get the answers without just kind of skipping ahead and getting them. So please do that. If for some reason you're finding these things, these videos, the way that I'm handling them, just not really totally working for you, please email me. I'm not going to take offense to it. This is something I'm trying. It's something I'm trying with the school. They've actually requested that we try to do this more often to kind of just shift into what a lot of other colleges are doing as far as hybrid classes and online classes. So I'm new at it. I won't take offense if you tell me, oh, not really getting the same as I would if we were meeting. And I'll try to tweak things and work them around to make the experience better for you guys, because honestly, that's what it's all about, making sure that you understand the material. And at the end of the day, at the end of this class, that you can sit down with a set of drawings and they don't look completely foreign to you like they may have a couple of weeks ago. So with that being said, any questions on anything we went over, the class assignments, any homework, email me. I can set one of these video chats up with you, and we can go through them just like we did here on the lecture. Please don't be shy to do that. I can do it probably later in the evening. I have 3 little kids that run around and make tons of noise during the day. So if you need some extra help, plan on it probably being nighttime type stuff. If you guys are night owls, I can stay up and help you. But we have one more video lecture for session 6 next Monday. We won't be meeting in person, so one more for that. And then we'll meet in person for session 7 and kind of get back on track with where we are and where we're moving to. So yeah, I'm going to sign off here, guys. Please go back and watch it again if you feel the need to, however many times you need to. And please email me with any questions, concerns, advice, criticisms. I can take it. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, I will see you here on the video lecture next week. Have a good one.